Most children can't wait to become adults, and we often ask children what they want to be when they grow up. Discovering who we are as an adult isn't always smooth sailing, as there are many unexpected challenges that we need to overcome. In addition to figuring out how to deal with changing bodies, adolescents have to find an adult identity. One of your important tasks as an adolescent is to separate yourself from your parents, to separate yourself from who you were as a child, to figure out who you are, what you want to be, and how you fit into society. There are some key areas where the challenge to find an adult identity appear. One area is in building relationships. This can be friendships, but also can be romantic relationships. On top of negotiating complex social hierarchies, adolescents also have to figure out what their sexual orientation is and who they want to date. Adolescents also need to figure out their own personal identity in terms of work. This tends to be the age at which teenagers get their first job, and whether they're flipping burgers or filing in an office, they have to figure out who they're going to be in that scenario, and how to negotiate responsibility when others suddenly view you as more of an adult than a child. Adolescents also have to decide how closely they're going to follow ideologies that they might have grown up with. So, will they follow their parents' religion, and how fervently? Will they support the same political parties or different ones? There are many ways for adolescents to try out their new identities. One of the people who did the earliest work on adolescence and identity was Erik Erikson. He's the one who coined the term identity crisis, which is kind of adolescence in a nutshell. For Erikson, what was most important was teenage rites of passage in terms of forging this identity. He worked with the Lakota tribe, who are Native Americans living in South Dakota. He observed their traditional society rituals that involved adolescence identity. In traditional societies, because these changes in adolescence are not necessarily visible, sometimes there are artificial markers that mark the change from child to adult. When children hit puberty, that confers to them adult status in a lot of traditional societies. That includes being allowed to get married. They take on roles as workers, for example, whether or not they're allowed to do adult work like hunting or be a medicine man or woman. They get to have greater independence, and their parents don't get to tell them what to do anymore. They're also allowed to own property, and because they've hit puberty, they can also become parents. These are all the sorts of things that we associate with adulthood. In traditional societies, they developed an interesting way of helping to mark this. For girls, there's a pretty obvious start for puberty, and that's the start of menstruation. There's a clear before and after. Once it happens, girls are considered to be adults. For boys, there are fewer obvious markers for transitioning into adulthood. So, people have developed different kinds of ceremonial initiation rites, and they tend to happen when boys are about 13 to 15 years old. Some of these will look familiar to you. Things like bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, baptisms in the Catholic Church, or confirmation. Many religions have markers that denote a separation from childhood and the entrance into adulthood. In traditional societies, puberty is one of those things that allows you to get married, and you get to have kids. In Schlegel and Berry's study of 186 traditional societies, in 63%, girls tended to be married within 2 years of the start of puberty. When this research was done, girls had their first menstruation right around 14 or 15 years of age. Boys had the ability to take a wife once they'd reached some sort of specific level of achievement. That would be something like making their first kill on a hunt, something that shows that they're able to provide for a wife and kids. In 64% of those societies, males were married within about 4 years of puberty. The age range of adolescence here is really narrow. We're talking 2 to 4 years, where children go from being a child to being married and possibly having children of their own.